No, you can't. Here we are. I'm live. Hope you can hear me now. Hope you can see me okay. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me. This is a bit of a last minute, unexpected live. I know it is for you just as much as it is for me. But thank you so much for being here. Drop me a hi in the chat. Let me know where you're dialing in from. I am currently in Latvia. It is, as you can see, it's nice and cold. Well, it actually isn't. It's a beautiful, beautiful autumn day. It's kind of overcast, but a little bit sunny. And it's just a beautiful day. Hence, I'm sitting outside. I know it doesn't look like I'm warm, but I am. And yeah, and another reason why I wanted to sit outside is that I want this session to be short, me just sharing some of my thoughts and reflections after a few conversations that I have been part of around burnout and mental well-being. And so just to make sure that I don't go into too much detail or derail or go off the rail, I came outside because it's fresh enough to make sure that I don't stay out here for too long. But thank you all for joining. Yeah, just drop me a hi. And as I said, it is a bit of an unexpected session for yourselves just as much as it is for me. This is my first LinkedIn Live in 5 months. It's been 5 months since I was last here with Bogdan and Dr. Sandra Upton, and we talked about operationalizing psychological safety. And today's conversation is going to be just myself talking to you. About burnout and mental well-being. And I feel that this conversation is topical right now for many reasons. Well, first and foremost, yesterday alone, I was involved in 3 completely unrelated conversations about burnout and mental well-being in 3 completely different communities across 3 completely different platforms. And at the same time, as I've been scrolling through social media, I see more and more of my friends and colleagues and people who I don't know sharing stuff about burnout, anxiety, depression, mental well-being, and so that says that these topics are topical right now. I think one of the reasons probably is also the fact that here in Northern Hemisphere, we are going into the dark and cold months of the year. And in many ways, autumn as a natural cycle also makes us kind of like drags or pulls us inwards and makes us reflect and preserve energy, and often because we are rewarded for always being in our prime energy and active and in our kind of like summer season, it's often difficult for us to mindfully and intentionally wind down for the year and for the season to preserve energy for what's ahead. And the third thing also is, we still talk about the mental illness crisis. That hasn't gone anywhere. The suicide rate is still spiking, and especially it's spiking among the most vulnerable communities and children. And to me, that is very telling. It is very concerning, and it's very, very damaging for us as a society. So I want to make sure that, and I am glad that these conversations are not anymore happening only during the mental well-being weeks or mental well-being months, but that we are talking about this and bringing these conversations to mainstream more often than that. And so I just want to say that the chat in the comment section is live. I will be monitoring as much as I can the comments throughout the session. So please drop me a hi and let me know where you're dialing in from. And as I kind of go through 3 myths that I want to, or rather 3 narratives around burnout and mental well-being that I want to debunk, please share your thoughts. Please share your reflections. If you have ever been through burnout or seen someone going through burnout or depression or battling anxiety disorder, whatever it might be, just share your thoughts on that. Hi, Frank. Thank you for being here. Frank is dialing in from London. Great to see you. Frank and I unfortunately didn't get to meet in London while I was there a couple of weeks ago, but I'm sure we will have an opportunity to do that next time. All right. So, as I said, there are the topic that I've picked for today's conversation is debunking the toxic narratives around burnout. And the reason for that is, as I mentioned, I have been part of 3 conversations around burnout and mental well-being yesterday alone. And for those who know me, know that I don't take anything that comes in threes to me lightly. So that was kind of an indicator or like a calling for me to definitely come live and talk to you about. And actually, I was recording my thoughts and reflections yesterday on a video, and I thought I would just post like a little video for people to watch in their own times, but it just didn't work out. Like nothing worked out yesterday, and so I again took that as a sign for me to again come here and have this conversation live. Another reason for that is, when we talk about depression, mental illness, burnout, anxiety, one of the remedies for people battling or going through the journey of this is connection. And we have so masterfully engineered connection out of our lives. And now we are kind of trying to engineer it back into it through online communities and social media. And sometimes it's just counterproductive, especially considering just how much anxiety and stress social media specifically adds to people's lives, how much disconnect and loneliness it adds to people's lives. So I think that was probably another reason why I wanted to be here live with you all. And also I wanted for something to stay on my timeline for anyone who wanted to tap into this topic at any other point throughout the year. And so, that being said, the conversations that I was part of yesterday and that I've seen also shared across social media here on LinkedIn and other platforms, as someone who has been through burnout, I not necessarily find all of these messages and all of these narratives necessary, kind, and helpful. And many of those actually are harmful. That adds even more fuel to what someone might be going through already. So that was also, one of the reasons why I wanted to come on board and debunk 3 specific narratives that kind of have been what I have picked up and picked out of these conversations. And so, first and foremost, what I want to talk about is this fixing mentality. And, as spectators of someone's low moments, we have this urge and we feel that we need to fix them, fix their mindset, fix their physical state, fix their worldview. But the thing is, as someone who has been through burnout, I can tell you that when you are in the lowest and darkest point of burnout, anxiety, mild depression, whatever it might be, you're often struggling to even get out of bed, let alone leave the house to go to the gym or meet your girlfriends, because your body is in a literal survival mode. So, my first tip in terms of fixing mentality is less with the toxic positivity and inspirational quotes, and more with being mindful and present with the person in the moment, because that alone will be validating for what that person is going through. And that also goes back to what I talked about earlier around connection. And this, in a way, leads me to my second point, and the second thing that I want to talk about, which is this kind of battle between addressing symptoms and addressing the real root cause. Often again, experts who talk about mental well-being and so on often say for people, just go out for walks, be active, eat better. And absolutely all of those things are part of the healing process. But once again, when we are in a literal survival mode and we can barely get out of bed, those things are as simple and basic as they seem. They feel like moving mountains. And so, and that's one thing. And secondly, also in many ways, when we are suggesting for someone to go for a walk or eat better or whatever, we are treating the symptoms or what we can observe in that moment rather than addressing the root cause. So as I'm going through these things, please engage. Please let me know, what are your thoughts of any of these points? And as I continue, so when talking about root cause, at least I today, to this day, get asked a question: what was one thing that burnt you out? Kind of what one thing got you here? And the thing to remember, and for me being kind of on the other side on burnout and having healed from it relatively recently, is that I want you to remember, and I want everyone to remember, and I'm trying to be mindful of that as well, is that burnout isn't just this one thing. It isn't just this one thing that got you to burnout. It is years of things. It is years of abusive home life, lack of financial stability, microaggressions, bullying, grief, toxic workplaces. And this piles up and condenses over years. And yes, there can be one thing that then pushes us over the edge. But the thing is that there is not one thing that gets us there. And so all of these things that, pile up, this lack of, financial stability, abuse, grief, all of those things that we might be going through. And of course, toxic workplaces, as often, a burnout conversations happen within workplace context, but actually these conversations belong everywhere. And the thing is that these experiences throughout our lives is what skews our nervous system from the state of peace and balance, which should be the norm. That's kind of what this toxic positivity feeds, that we always need to be happy and so on. We need to find peace and balance. And when our nervous system has been skewed from what peace and balance looks like to constantly being in high alertness and prolonged stress and the state of anxiety, that becomes our new norm. So I don't know if you've noticed, but during even moments of rest or pause often triggers this sense of anxiety and guilt that we are lazy, that we shouldn't be sitting here like this, but we should be doing some more work, be it work for our jobs or cleaning the house, or I don't know, writing our blog because we're not fulfilling our dreams. So even moments of peace actually are triggering, and they send us back into this state of anxiety and state of high alertness. So for me, apart from all that, this played out in my relationships. I grew up in a household where I was constantly walking around on eggshells, and 18 years of doing that, then add another decade of jumping between one toxic workplace culture to another, one inadequate workload to another, and add a breakup or two in the middle, add some, lack of financial stability, loss of a loved one, and you get the perfect storm. Because we never create time to process, to find peace, and to actually get through, not get over and forget, but to get through these feelings. So when I was in moments of peace, I didn't know what to do with myself. That environment and that state was not familiar to my nervous system. So even if there wasn't anything to worry about, I started provoking situations or provoking my partner just to get back to that state of high alertness, just because that is what my nervous system recognized and that's what it was comfortable with. But ultimately, as you can imagine, over long periods of time, it is in no way healthy. So all that to say, we can't fix burnout with sprinkling some green juice or spa breaks in our routine. Those things matter. Those things should be incorporated as part of our healing process. However, we also should be looking at not just the symptoms, but really at the root cause and creating more sustainable solutions for our mental well-being. And so, three things that I want to share that have been sustainable for me and have helped me long term have been these three things. So, first and foremost, it has been assessing my circle. So, who are the people I let close? Be it family, friends, business partners, other contacts. Who am I giving my energy to? And who is giving me energy? And who is taking it from me? Who is accepting me for who I am and to who I'm never enough? Who is celebrating me and my wins just the way they are? And who is jealous? Or who, again, feels that my wins are not big enough or I could have done better, feeding this, again, toxic perfectionism. And this assessing your circle matters for several reasons, but most importantly, what energy and what kind of vibe you allow around yourself. That kind of leads me to the second point that really helped me, which is setting boundaries. And oh my God, what a difficult thing that is to learn setting boundaries in an adulthood when your family, your teachers, your education system, friends have zero boundaries and no one has ever taught you to set them and how to do that. So to me, it's still an ongoing process, and I'm good with some things and some people, and I'm shocking with others. So, another important thing to keep in mind is that, all of these things are work in progress. And the third thing that I found was very, very important to do is building my emotional literacy and vocabulary to be able to recognize and articulate what was that I was feeling in that moment, so that I could address the need that my emotion was representing and was expressing. And here's a fun fact for you, and I've quoted this, a few times. Brené Brown, a while ago, with her team of researchers, surveyed 17,000 leaders across the globe, asking them a question of how many emotions and feelings could they name. And the number of feelings that they could name were 3. It was happy, sad, and angry. And if we only see our lives through the lenses of these three feelings, without recognizing that anger could actually mean stress, it could mean frustration, it could mean grief, whatever it might be, that there are so many shades and levels of each of these, then it will be very, very difficult to maintain our mental well-being and connect with other people in need. So that is what I mean by addressing symptoms versus root cause. And those were, some of the things that helped me improving my mental well-being and making it sustainable after my own burnout. And so the third narrative that I want to talk about is around kind of destigmatizing the conversations of burnout and mental illness. And so today, we live in a world where we are surrounded by content, friends' posts, followers, but we are often feeling more lonely and isolated than ever. So hence building a strong social connections and meaningful relationships are more important than ever. Because by nature, we are social creatures. And if we experience disconnect over a period of time, that sends our nervous system, again, back in that high alertness state. And as I mentioned earlier, burnout is not just a workplace or an individual issue. It is a social issue. So find ways to connect with people, even if it's just for 5 minutes a day. And also do not underestimate the support of a therapist, counselor, or a coach. Again, in the time that we live in, fear of missing out, this sense of urgency, information overload, and sensationalism, it is hard to find safe spaces for us to talk, for us to be vulnerable, for us to tell our story. and do that with openness and vulnerability. And sometimes even our own family and friendship circles don't feel safe to talk about certain things. So reach out for help. There is absolutely no shame in that. And of course, if you are in a situation of crisis, please contact a helpline where professionals will give you an immediate attention. So as I mentioned, I didn't want this conversation to be a long one, and I just wanted to kind of share some of the things that I have been hearing over the past few days and yesterday alone, and just to kind of recap, stop this toxic positivity and this fixing mentality. It's not helping anyone. Grab the low hanging fruit, kind of in fixing the symptoms, but also remember that healing from burnout is a long process that requires, one way or another, or at some point sooner or later, addressing the root cause and implementing sustainable ways of staying healthy. And lastly, talk about it. Don't hide behind a smile and I'm doing great. If anything, just don't lie to yourself about how you're feeling and seek help that you need in that moment of time. So thank you for allowing me to come here and talk to you and just express something that has been on my mind. I appreciate you joining here. And as I said, this is going to be something that's going to stay on my timeline. So feel free to tapping in and out of it and share with me. If you don't want to do it publicly, what you might be going through, I'd be happy to hold space and sharing, any kind of like real stories from my own experience that might be helpful. So thank you, stay healthy, and remember your annual leave is due. So make sure you take it out.